Oh, stand by, folks. She is just riled up tonight. Good evening. Welcome to the Nikki and Reuel podcast experience. I'm Reuel Sample, unfortunately joined as always by Nikki Bascom. Good evening, Nikki.
You know you're a blessed man, Rule. You get to spend every week with me. Come on.
And you have an important backdrop behind you because we're going to be talking to a person from education. That's why she's got it there, folks. It's all about education tonight. So
Yes.
I hope everybody has dug out from the snow and is back outside and doing all that. Nikki, tell us about our guest coming on tonight.
Oh gosh. Okay, here we go. Stalker Nikki again. This is actually I met this person multiple times. Met this person right before our COVID shutdowns. Actually, right in the midst of our COVID shutdowns. Another parent that I just clicked with, and someone that I felt like was so genuine and honest with me that I didn't have to hold back or question where I stood with her. So I am so excited to introduce New Hanover County Board of Education member Josie Barnhart. Thank you for coming, Josie.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Josie. Good to have you on board. Now, before we get into anything else, I am preempting, and you don't know what we're going to talk about, which is great, because for the last two podcasts, Nikki has been saying, I got something to tell you, got something to tell you, but I can't tell you. I got something to tell you, I got something to tell you, but I can't tell you. So it's like this all the time. So I'm going to bring this in. Nikki, what's going on here?
Gonna be a grandma.
Nikki is.
That is my daughter Izzy and her husband Nicholas, and that is baby Amelia. She's gonna be here in July. I'm so proud of. Oh, that is my baby girl. That's my mini me right there. Can't you see it? Woof. She's in.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that, yeah, I get to call you Grandma for the rest of the podcast, and we'll make sure that we're done early so that you can get back to the home.
So I
So
can go to bed early and be the
and make
grandma. Get back to my crocheting
and yeah, your case of insure should be coming tomorrow, so you're good to go, Grandma.
oh, my AARP card, and I make sure I
You
file for
gotta take advantage
Medicaid.
of those discounts. I'm just saying.
That's very much so. Josie Barnhart is here with us from the Board of Education, and I'm going to refer to it as the school board too, because I'm just old-fashioned that way. But Josie, you've got a whole bunch of things going on. First, tell us about your most exciting bit of news, or the thing that you are most passionate about coming here to talk to us tonight on the Nikki and Reuel podcast experience.
I think one of the things that I've said in my campaign and just serving, as I've been able to serve for the last 2 years, it's helping create opportunities for our kids and for our staff. And so I have a couple of things I'm really proud of. One is our seventh grade program for the Career Leadership Development Academy. And it's a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. And this year is thank you to the General Assembly to give us funding. But it's the first year every single seventh grader has hands-on opportunity to do career exploration. And it's wonderful. I'm very excited for it.
This is
Which
in
is great.
seventh.
My
Yeah.
son participates in that, and he loves it. They got to go to the studios one time to see
Sensei.
how things are made. Yes, he loves it. They all the seventh graders in his classroom really look forward to this program. So thank you to you for helping push that along. Thank you to the legislators, and thank you for the Wilmington Chamber of Commerce for supporting that.
This is seventh graders looking at careers.
Yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity. So it started as a pilot prior to me coming into my position, and only 40 seventh graders across our district had the opportunity. And what the chamber did is they identified the top 8 areas of industry here in Wilmington of good, high quality paying jobs, some that require a college degree, some that require certifications. And really it was an idea to expose kids of like, here in your backyard, you can do these things. Hospitality, nursing, just like you said, Sin Space in the film industry. These are things that are here. You don't have to go somewhere to have a good quality job in life. And so this year, what we did was with the chamber, and I kind of was one of the people behind the scenes of how can we make this work, right? Because in the education world, you have standards you have to teach, you have a course study that you have to get through. Business world is like, we need good people to have these jobs and do this. And so I said, why don't we bring in I said, can you guys pay the teachers? And they're like, yeah, we can pay the teachers. And so this summer, the chamber actually hired our staff to write content for every industry exploration days. And there's 8 of them. And so now the 7th graders, depending on what school you're at, they're shut down on a Wednesday. And every single 7th grader from that school gets to go on site to a job industry. And the teachers have already created content. So now there's academics that are aligned to North Carolina standards for this era of industry exploration day, and they're able to come back and not have extra work on them and have this awesome experience with their students. And like Nikki said, you're going to go to 4 in the year, but there's going to be 8 different areas total that our kids are exploring.
That's fantastic. That is absolutely amazing. Go ahead, Nikki.
And I think I've heard a little bit of pushback from a couple of people that just don't understand some of our core learning in Hanover County. By 8th grade, you are starting to talk about what high school you want to go to and what high school track you want to be on. Do you want to go to the dual enrollment that Laney offers, or do you want a Lyceum program? Or so it's not far off to think about some of this career development in 7th grade. So then in 8th grade, when you're making these decisions about what high school track you're going to follow, are you going to follow a high school track that gets you ready for career straight out of high school, or are you doing the college track? So I commend you guys for really focusing on those 7th graders. As a parent of a 7th grader, it really means a lot to our family. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I've enjoyed it. I've actually got to go on some of these field trips and help be the chaperone. When it was the pilot opportunity, we had staff, and myself included, would come in and interview these kids going into the program to say, what are you interested in? Oftentimes the kids are like, I don't know. I wanted to get out of school. And then at the end, they would talk about where their passions are. And that was really cool just to see that transition because, middle school is an awkward time in life, right? Like of the things that happen and the changes that happen throughout that. And so really just to share with them, here are people who are successful in their industry as a general contractor, as a nurse, in the film industry, and what they like to do. And I did do the film one last spring, and it was funny because they weren't allowed to say what they were filming, but it was a popular younger person show, and so all of the girls would giggle. They're like, "Is that what it is?" And they're like, "We can't say, but do you want to sit on it?" And they're like, "Yes, we do." So it was really cool.
We all know what it is.
Yeah, it was really cool just to see that engagement from the kids because, that's what you want, right? In education and school, you want kids to be passionate about what they want to move on to. And so just to be a part of that conversation and just hear what's going through their minds gives me perspective doing my job in the governance role of just saying, this is why you're doing it, is to help create and facilitate these opportunities. And so it's exciting.
Well, first off, I actually have no idea what film or television show that you're talking about, but I don't have young kids in the house, so I have no idea what the young whippersnappers are watching right now.
And I announced what it was the summer I turned pretty.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Now, you heard it here, folks, on the Nikki and Reuel podcast experience. But the other question I have is that when I was in 7th grade, I was just trying to get through 7th grade and puberty and making sure that
and you still are.
And I still am. Every now and then my voice breaks. So, but the then 8th grade, and then you're worried about going on to high school, but it's not that preparatory thing. When did When did middle school start prepping for high school like this? And is it needed? Is it a, is have you found that you need to start prepping them that early?
So I just want to say this program is not saying here's your track. It's really just like an exposure thing because
Hmm.
when you fast forward to graduation, and that was one of the things, and you hear our superintendent talk about it, is graduation rates. He wants to talk about how we can help address that and have an increase of graduation rates. Well, when you think about that, you kind of got to backtrack and say, well, how are we going to keep kids engaged and wanting to be in school? Because if you're
Hmm.
a high school dropout, it might happen your sophomore year or junior year or senior year. So how can we hook into these kids to say you have this opportunity, you have this pathway, and it really becomes that turning point. Middle school is is that turning point for a lot of our students to say, what do I want to do? And is
Hmm.
this something, or, and just to break that perception of them of saying, I can live in Wilmington. I don't have to go away to school. I don't have to go to college to do this job, and I can make $65,000 a year just coming out of high school. Like that sounds like something I want to do. Like those are the kind of things that when you are showing kids what is attainable in your own backyard, literally down the road from me is where Sin Space is like then kids have a different perspective to say, well, I think I can do that. I can take a 6-week course or an accreditation. And so this is not tracking students into anything. This is just giving them an opportunity. And like I said, for this year, because we scaled it from 40 kids, it had 88 kids last year, and now it's almost 1,800 seventh graders this year. So
Wow.
the kids are going to explore hands-on 4 industry days, and then they get to hear about the other 4 through other kids' experiences. So they're still being exposed to the top 8 areas of industry here in Wilmington, but they get to go hands in depth with these companies for 4 of
Wow.
them.
Wow.
Is so awesome. So you were also telling us, and I know that we've seen it on social media because New Hanover County Schools has done such a phenomenal job here lately of really sharing all the good news. But tell us about the essay contest that happened. Right, it was probably October. Was it October,
Yeah.
November?
Yeah, so
So tell us
that
about
is
that.
something exciting too. That's I helped create a partnership with Bikes for Kids, and Mr. Bob is the guy with that. And so I was talking with him, and him and I have a passion just to create that opportunity for students that are low income, and to say, how can we help change the trajectory of your life? Because oftentimes, and I know we've had this conversation, Nikki and I,
Mhm.
if you grow up in poverty and you've only been shown one track of life, that's what you think you're going to achieve or accomplish. But it's our job as educators and in the education school setting to say, you can do whatever you put your mind to. If you work hard, if you dream big, if you follow through, you can achieve whatever goal you want to have. And so Mr. Bob's organization, Bikes for Kids, has a program specifically targeted at third graders, to do just that. So it's a little booklet that they work through, and they talk about dreaming big. What does their future look like? What do they
Mm.
see themselves? How are they going to get there? And so when I initially started talking to Mr. Bob, we started talking about, well, maybe we can do one of our schools, maybe 2 of our schools, elementary, third grade, like I said. But I said, Mr. Bob, what if we had a threshold? What if we said a poverty threshold of 70% or higher? And he said, well, how many schools would that be, Josie? I said, I don't know, but I can figure that out for us. And it ended up being 7 of our schools. And this fall was the first year we had a Bikes for Kids organization. It was over at New Hanover High School. And what was really cool about that is the kids wrote an essay after they did this, and they had some class discussion, and the teachers helped facilitate that. All of the principals were on board. They got this content before and said, hey, do we want to do this? And all the teachers said, yes, absolutely. None of the teachers, none of the admin knew that the kids were going to win bikes, but they knew that there was going to be an essay contest so that some kids would win bikes. And so when they got to the day of, and I was able to be there and cheer on with the kids too, they read the essays out loud. And so if a kid who was passionate about becoming a nurse, for example, well, then we got we got somebody from high school who is going into nursing, and they came and got to talk to the kids, and they said, this is what I've done. And, I was an AB student and now I have a full ride scholarship, or now I'm getting this accreditation, and talk to the kids. And then at the end, when they thought they were presenting the last bike, they said, actually, because we know when you work hard, when you dream big, when you do good. And they said, all of you guys are going to get a bike. And all the kids just erupted and screaming. And it was a proud day. And I'm so grateful to the sponsors, because it cost New Hanover County Schools no money, right? These were sponsors that stepped up and said, hey, we believe that having this opportunity for kids is going to help. And it absolutely is. And so I know Mr. Bob was excited. I know our sponsors were excited to continue this. And it's something that I'm going to just continue to push for, because this is one of the things that if you can help create a vision for kids as young as third grade to say, I want to do good. I want to hold myself accountable. I want to follow through because I want to be that kid. I want to be that kid that goes into nursing. I want to be that kid that's going to be a chef. I want to be that kid that's going to do whatever. And to see kids like them that are doing this, they were so excited. And the band, and I got to give a shout out to our band across the district. They came and played for our students, and it was like a big pep rally, right? We had the football players, and so it was really cool just to help inspire kids. And the principals were so grateful. There, so many teachers and principals were just in tears with their kids, and it was a wonderful experience to see, because my background is education, but as a teacher, you just want the best for your kids. And, in your classroom, you're going to do the best that you can with your students. But for somebody to say, I want to create this opportunity, it just brings you so much joy, because even though you didn't birth those kids, you love them like your own kids. And so it was such a joyous occasion. I'm so grateful. There was a couple other board members to be there with me that day too, just to be a part of it, because that's what we are. We're part of a district together and helping work for great opportunities. So,
is it hard to get some kids to dream big?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Well, first you got to talk about how you teach them how to do that. Right? Some kids might say, I don't know, I just want to get through tomorrow. And so then to talk about what that looks like, and to talk about, sometimes it's focusing on the choices you make is, what your future would look like. And so it brings complex conversation and kind of takes kids out of maybe their day-to-day of what they're living through, and focuses on that hope of what they want to become. And I think for some kids that are growing up in adverse situations, and like I said, the market that we had was the poverty line of 70% or higher. And so really to say, hey, we don't want to focus on where you are at currently. We want to give you an opportunity to highlight where we want you to be and where we want you and know that you can go to. And so I think that takes a lot. And I know, I've worked in Title I schools, and I have good friends that still do that now. And it's taxing. It's taxing to be that constant sounding board for students. And so many of our teachers love it, and so grateful. And so I'm grateful to help provide a resource that supports them and just says, hey, we're thinking about you. We love you guys. We love what you're doing. Just know we're here to support these kids. So.
Sounds amazing. But so we've talked about the kids, and one of the amazing things that you guys did for the kids in October, and we're probably going to talk about the kids a little bit more too, but let's talk about advanced teacher roles. Let's talk about what we're doing for our staff. I know that I was in a meeting recently with Dr. Barnes, and he was talking about how our safety rates, everyone's talking about safety right now, and that our safety is increasing in our schools, and people are feeling a little bit more comfortable. But let's talk about our advanced teacher roles. What are you guys doing to support our staff right now? I know it's good stuff. It has to be good stuff.
Yeah, I love it. So this was something that we were able to get. It's a 3-year stipend in the state budget. And advanced teacher roles really focuses on the highly effective teacher. So, right, when we want kids to grow and want kids to be on grade level or above grade level, we talk about what does it mean to be highly effective at teaching. And so this year, I think there's 5 schools that we have, and I think total 13 teachers, that those highly effective teachers are helping train other teachers to become highly effective and impacting 565 of our students. And where the schools that we focused on were those low performing schools. We currently have 6. We've decreased from 2 years ago. We had 13 and now we're down to 6. I would love for it to be 0,
Yeah,
but
0.
we're going in that direction. And so how do we do that? Well, we want to support highly effective teachers of saying we want
Yes.
those teachers in the classroom. So the way this grant works is these teachers have to be in the classroom more than 50% of the time, and they're working at honing their skill. And we're kind of creating a database from New Hanover County school-wide so that then other teachers can access it. Because I've often asked the question, what are we doing to help facilitate, if you're a really great teacher, Rule, I want you in every single classroom in New Hanover County schools, but that's not possible. So what can I do to facilitate your skill set for all of our teachers to have access to it? And so technology is one of those ways that we can utilize in a format to help other teachers gain that skill set. And so those are things that we're doing, that we're teaching, and that we're creating this environment of saying, hey, we're working together. Because if you have the mindset that it's not just, well, I just got to do good. We want our whole grade level to do good, our whole school to do good. And so if you're putting in that mindset and putting in that work to say, we want to uplift everybody, then that's how we're going to get 0 low performing schools, because we're going to be working together.
It's more sustainable, a sustainable plan that can be replicated over and over and over again. That sounds absolutely fantastic.
Here's what I'm thinking, Josie, is that if the mega churches can do it, then you can certainly have me in one place, and I could be teaching all across the school district all at the same time. It's
we
just
don't want Rule teaching us.
I can't use an example, but here we go.
yeah, I can.
He's
yeah,
like,
that-
Rule, we did not bring her on so that you could ask for a job. You're not working for me in the schools.
Speaking of jobs, I got to tell you, Josie, he's still called the interim superintendent. He is doing a fantastic job. There is nothing that goes on that he is not transparent about. He is upfront. He is on top of the ball. He's doing a great job.
I will totally echo that sentiment. I have a lot of respect for Dr. Barnes, and we have, as a board, we have a superintendent work session this coming week. So hopefully, if the snow goes away, we can actually still do that. And so I will be echoing that sentiment. The reality is the communication is a night and day difference of just the procedural of expectation of the board knows and then the staff knows, and to see that consistency time after time after time, whether it's a positive thing that we're being informed about or something that's concerning that we're just monitoring, we are aware of situations as that's our job, right, to be in the governance board. And so this is so important as a board member and then as part of the board to be informed, because we need to understand what's going on so that we can ask those questions and have that accountability that's needed in the school system. And it's something that he has done really well, and acknowledging. And I'll just say, I mean, we're going to have another snow day tomorrow. But even just when we went to remote work on, I know, on Wednesday, just the conversations we have of when you have to close school or you have to go to a remote day. Well, we have staff that is hourly that they all can't work remote. And so we don't want them to lose a paycheck, because it's important to maintain consistency for our staff, right? If we can't pay you, you're probably not going to stay. And so really, and just allowing him to tell that to us so we can share where his thought process is when decisions are made. So there was a remote day on Wednesday, and part of that was so that we can still pay our people. And then you're looking at the calendar and stuff too. So we currently do not have to make up any days. We're just fingers crossed that we don't have any other crazy storms, because, we're very thin on those margins. But all those things that go into what does it look like to be an effective school district, I have been very grateful in the last few months under his leadership to learn about that so I can better understand. So when I'm talking to people, they are also understanding too. Nobody, I hate remote days, but I'm going to tell you what, I don't want you to take away a day from spring break. So
Yes.
so there is written in
Yes.
general statute where we're allowed to have so many. So it's things like that of just really helping share the full picture helps us work better as a collective unit. And so I've been really grateful for his leadership in that.
And oh my God, he's done it in such an amazing way. I don't know if if any of our viewers do not follow New Hanover County Schools social pages, he makes it fun. His announcement of our snow day was him laying in the snow making a snow angel. I mean, and at Christmas, he went around as Santa Claus, and I think it kind of sets the tone. And I know our staff have just been, we saw the climate, everyone saw the climate survey from last year, and it was so bah humbug. And he really is setting the tone for, okay, this kind of sucks and there's some hard decisions to make, but hey, we're here for you. And and even the phone call to the parents was, stay safe, but enjoy your time off, make a snowman, have some hot cocoa. I mean, it really set the tone, because as a staff member and a parent, yeah, it was like, thank you, you thought of me, not just here's the information, blah, and there it is. And even when they weren't sure what they were going to do about the snow day yet, they even said, hey, don't worry. We're thinking about it. We've got it on our mind. We'll let you know as soon as we make a decision. And even that was kind of nice. So,
Yeah,
okay.
I agree. And I know after that climate survey came out, the board really wanted to try to do, and I can't, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. I'm here as an individual contributor. But, we said, how can we do a better job of being accessible and trying to bring that transparency and that open dialogue? And those have been shifts that we've seen and that we've lived into, to say we want to do a better job and have this cohesive unit. Not saying that cohesive does not mean that everybody's going to agree on everything, but cohesive is understanding why we're on the page that we're on. We're doing this, and this is why, and understanding that so that people can be brought into the fold and understand where the decision is coming from. But
One of the things I've seen from you, Josie, through your campaign and through all the time that you've been on the board, is a desire for innovation. I'm going to bring something up here as soon as my mouse starts working again. There it is. And you had talked about this beforehand, and I want to bring this up because this is something that you are working on with a variety of people, right? So tell me about, what is Spark NC?
oh, I love this. We are one of the blessed district. We are one of 17 in the state of North Carolina that has a Spark NC lab over at CTech. I was actually just there last week with a few other board members and talking about the opportunities. But basically, it's an innovative way where students can piece together and complete modules to get high school credits. And they're able to be self-paced and they're industry driven, which is huge. Anybody who is in the CTE field, and not just CTE, but anybody who's in the career field of saying, we want industry standards. Our kids to know industry standards, is they would pay big dollar for that. And we've had students come out of these programs earning big dollars as a high school graduate. And so what is really great about this is it turns education upside down. It allows kids to work at their own pace. It allows them to explore where their interests are. It allows them to work through real life problems and not just learn a standard. And that is drastically different from just the whole system of education. So there's a behind the scenes stuff that to work through with DPI and that sort of thing, but the innovation level and the concept, and the director, Lynn Moody, of that organization, is just phenomenal in understanding. It's really anchored at student initiatives and I'm so grateful that we have it here in New Hanover County. That was put in the budget from, again, the General Assembly this last cycle. And we have it. I would love to see one in every single one of our high schools. We're not there yet, but we have one and our students are thriving in it.
Mm. And if you're a parent and your student is not in that, they need to call you and they need to say, hey, we want more of this, because there's nothing that drives things like this more than parents clamoring for it.
Yeah. I mean, it is so, I have seen presentations. Spark NC has won nationwide awards of innovation as far as what this looks like. And I'm just, again, so grateful the students that we got to see this last time around. They're starting a new initiative, a statewide ambassador, and what they get to do, they actually get paid. It's paid internships that companies are saying, hey, I'm going to pay you for your feedback. And they just get to be honest. They get to say, I love this app. This sucks. This is what I would change. This is what I would do differently, because companies want to be able to engage the next generation. And so the opportunity for that in itself, to have a paid, I'm going to pay you for your opinion on things, is very cool. And they get to collaborate with different Spark NC labs across the state, just problem solving. It's a really great opportunity.
Fantastic.
That sounds absolutely amazing. So, maybe for some of our general listeners or watchers, I guess, that might not know, even though you're on the school board, you work very closely with the county commissioners. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do with the county commissioners? What do you have to talk about, and how you're trying to build that relationship with them?
Absolutely. So the county provides the local funding piece for our budget. And so there's a big chunk in the operational side, and then by general statute, they're required for the capital side of things and meet the buildings maintenance. And so the last 2 years, we've seen it had typically been around $4 million for capital budgeting. Well, the last 2 years, we received over $10 million for capital. And then this year we were budgeted zero. And I was concerned about that. However, they said to come to us, specifically New Hanover High School was a concern. And I know we've seen those renovation. We got the calls of like, we are going to have to displace classrooms and students. And it was not an ideal situation. That Mr. Sutton is doing a phenomenal job. Our staff's doing a phenomenal job. But to say, hey, this is a priority. We have to get these fixed and addressed. And to date, they've given us close to $7 million for capital.
Wow.
So we can really tackle this. And here's the important thing, so that our students and staff can be back in their classrooms before we start next year's school.
That's fantastic.
It's so important, because we're talking about just having consistency for our students and providing that quality environment. And so understanding that, yes, we need to address these capital needs and issues, but really being responsive to saying, in a way that is going to be beneficial to students. And so this was not an ideal way to kick off the year, but really having that open dialogue with county commissioners. And I will say this, what is unique, and this is a wonderful thing I'm so grateful for, our county commissioners are very generous with the amount of money and funding that they put in education. And one of the things that we did is we talked about, we are at the beach. Right? We are prone to hurricanes, and nobody likes to say the word, but a few years ago, we had massive damage to our schools. I mean, Pender County was out for weeks of just displacement. And so we've talked about fund balance, which is essentially, I don't want to get too technical here, but a savings account for the school system. So what we did is we entered in, and this was in the last 6 months, agreement with the county commissioners to say, we will keep $500,000, but they would provide up to $10 million to help with, if in the event of an emergency, that they would help with relief for that. And so I think that is super important to know, because when we talk about maintaining operational status, is we have to be able to continuously do that in a way that's beneficial to our staff, right? We need to make sure everybody's paid on time, all that stuff. But in the event that something big happens, we are going to have to go to them. And so now that we have this agreement to say, hey, as long as we have $500,000 that we can put up front, we would go to the county commissioners in the event of an emergency, like a hurricane, and they would give us $10 million to instantly fix whatever we need to do to get our kids back in school. And these are the kind of things that it takes trust. It takes open dialogue to say, hey, you know, we're at the beach. We don't want kids to be displaced for weeks at a time. So we need this, but you know, what is it better for us to have it in our savings account or for them in their savings account? People would argue about that, but the reality is I just want to make sure that we're being responsive to the needs when we need it. And this year has really proven that our county commissioners are absolutely responsive to the needs. They gave us zero capital dollars, have budgeted zero capital dollars, but they've given us almost $7 million to be responsive to those needs.
That's great. That's great. And I hope my friend Dane Scalise is being nice to you over there, and because you know he hangs out with big dogs. I don't understand why, you know, Great Danes and things like that. Speaking of savings accounts, you and I were talking. We were talking before the show began about savings accounts for students starting at a very, very young age. I think that's fantastic, and this is yet another example of private industry, the private sector, partnering with public education. What are these savings accounts for kids?
Well, I'm just going to say, I go to so many things and talk to so many people. And when people are interested in supporting our students, I'm like, well, tell me how. And so this came about with Excite Credit Union. And I was talking with a couple people at one of those power breakfast or something, and they said, oh yeah, we have a foundation that supports low socioeconomic students, and we're in California, but we also have branches in North Carolina. I said, why don't you have anything in New Hanover County schools? And he said, well, do we have schools that are high poverty? And I said, yeah. So we started talking, and I said, well, what does a saving account entail? And so what they said their foundation does is they actually target high poverty, low socioeconomic families. And I understand the Parents' Bill of Rights and implementation, and our district is doing things to be in compliance with that. And I said, how can we ensure that we're following the law and also provide this opportunity? And so Freeman Elementary School is our first school in New Hanover County to do that. And we initially had talked about only the kindergartners, but the foundation was generous enough to say every single student at that school. So if you were kindergarten through 5th grade, you have the opportunity to have a free savings account with Excite Credit Union. It's a high interest yield account, and they match money every year. It's like $25 or $50 a year, so that by the time the student graduates from high school, they have a nest egg of a few $1,000s. And there's every few years, there's like a match year. No matter if the family does or does not put money in, the foundation will put money in at year 5, year 10, year 15, things like that. But it's the premise of understanding, you know, kids, if they see I have an opportunity, right? I have the finances to go to school or to pursue this credential, to give them that hope. And I'm really excited. It's not finalized yet, but it looks like we're going to be able to expand to Johnson Pre-K and potentially a couple other schools. But they also have resources to support our schools with financial literacy, and just a component of that, of helping educate and not putting it on our teachers, but to have our teachers to have access to that. And so just really excited to continue this partnership with them, because it's, again, no charge to us. It's just an opportunity that they have these resources. And I have been a strong proponent of, it should not matter where you teach at, Nikki, or where someone else is going to teach at. It's our job as a district to try to provide those opportunities so that all kids are benefiting from it. And so while the high interest savings account is specifically targeted for high poverty students, the financial literacy component is going to be potentially accessible to all of our schools, which is something that is just really wonderful, because when we were talking about, it's so important to know about how to do our finances, right?
There's definitely.
You are changing generations right there. That is a generational shift. Josie Barnhart, before we let you go, what's your final word? What are your dreams for this upcoming last 6 months of the school year, and looking forward to what's big on your platter?
I think just really continuously to build those relationships, both at the local level and our state level, I'm so passionate about that, because when we're helping to articulate what's happening and what we're able to do and how we're able to impact, it helps bring ownership in the people that are helping provide that funding source for us. And it's something that is so meaningful because, like you said, we're impacting the next generation. And so for me, I'm just going to continue to go out there and hound and build relationships with people because our kids and our staff are worth it.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Josie. Thank you so much.
We're going to put you back in the green room, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good. Good night. Thanks for having me.
Bye, Josie.
Well, Grandma, she was fantastic, as always.
Yes. And it gets me choked up, because that's a position that I felt like I'm still so passionate about our schools and hearing how well they're doing, and that there are people out there making a difference and caring about our children. That's all I could ever ask for. And
she is tireless. She is absolutely tireless. It's
I honestly, I don't think anyone really understands, and I don't think people understand when they're sitting on the outskirts and tearing apart some of these candidates. And I don't think some of the candidates really understand what they're taking on when it comes to the school board. It's more than just sitting on that dais and making decisions. It is making relationships with the legislators. You really need to know what's coming down from the state level and from the federal level, what's coming down from the Department of Education. It's understanding what happens in a classroom from day to day, so that you know that your policies are actually not only matching what's coming down from Department of Education, the federal level and the state level, but matching what is actually a teacher is able to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I'm so glad we were able to have Josie here to explain to us some of the good things that are happening. I think we've just been down on our schools ever since COVID.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear all the good stuff. I cannot wait until May and June when we start hearing our graduation rates.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
To hear how our kids are doing. I've been seeing a difference just in the last couple of weeks of our schools. Like everyone's, I don't know, just there's a different vibe to it right now.
We talked about Dr. Barnes at the superintendent level, but
Yes.
he really truly is. I didn't bring it up with her, but when you have a person in position apologize for a call that he made. You can't really call it a bad call, but it was a dynamic call back when we had the storms back in the fall. And he gets on there and the guy apologizes.
Yes.
He had just been in that position for just a couple months, and he's taking full responsibility. How many politicians actually do that? How many people in positions of authority actually do that? That was fantastic.
It was absolutely amazing. And one thing that I talk a lot about is as a general public, we expect our politicians and we expect people in power to have some sort of perfection to them, that they're not going to get things wrong. They will. They're human. They're going to get things wrong. They're going to make the wrong call. And how do they handle that? And a great leader is going to be one to humble themselves and say, I made a bad call. And I'm sorry. And you do not find that very often. And especially in politics, a lot of egos run it. And you can't blame them for that, because if you don't have an ego, you're going to get eaten alive. I mean, I'm the perfect example of it. I mean, it's really hard to humble yourself when you're getting torn apart all the time. Like you feel like you can't do anything right. So when you're constantly striving to do things right, and then when you do something wrong, it's really hard to eat that humble pie. So good on you, Dr. Barnes. You're doing. I have nothing but great things to say about him.
I didn't bring this up when Josie was on because I didn't want to put her on the spot, but I hope they find a way to keep him permanent. Let's get that interim out from in front of his name and make him permanent. They just need to stop looking.
I'm I'm feeling that's a bipartisan decision as well. I'm hearing it across the board from teachers that I'm working with and the staff that I talk to on a regular basis. And they're not like, oh, is he Republican? Is he Democrat? Are you Republican? Are you Democrat? What do you think? And it's a bipartisan thing, and let's do what's best for the kids. And he's just got a good vibe, and he's got an example that I would want my son to follow. That's
We've got some good folks on the school board. Josie, we've got Dr. Barnes, we've got folks on the county commission that are just working very, very hard. There seems to be a consistent thing, a little letter after all these folks that seems to be consistent across the board. And,
I didn't hear you say that. Nope.
and they're doing a great job. And it's all you never hear it's about them. It's all about the kids, and it's fantastic. So
it is amazing about the kids and our staff. Let's not forget our staff. Exactly. And something that Josie brought up as a parent that was worried about the snowstorm, and oh my gosh, I'm going to be remote learning, and I just it's PTSD. Oh, no, not that again. But until she explained it tonight, it really didn't strike me that, you're looking at how it affects the children, how it affects the parents, how it affects the staff, and then you've got to remember you've got staff that are in these different little pockets. You've got the teaching staff, the certified staff, and the uncertified staff, and the hourly staff, and oh my gosh, it's like you don't really think about all of that all the time. So I'm glad she brought that up, because it really it was over my head.
Yep.
That might be a reasoning. That's something that you're considering on a snow day.
You know what? For a group of people who are willing to stand out and brave hurricanes and say, I'm not going anywhere, you really do wimp out with just a few inches of snow down here. It's just So, Nikki, you've got some trivia questions to answer, and you've got another trivia question to post tonight.
I do. So the first trivia question that we had was, when did New Hanover County become its own county? And actually, when I was doing a little bit of my research, I found out that it wasn't really a county. It was in 1729, and it was called the New Hanover County Precinct, or New Hanover Precinct of Bath. And the second part of that was, what county or precinct did it come from? And it came from Craven, which, if you think about it, I hinted to it in our last podcast that New Bern was the capital at that time. So it kind of came out of New Bern. And I was going to sit here and do this whole spill about Bath County, and how Bath County is not a county anymore, and how that happened, but we'll save it for another. That'll be another one.
You might say our discussion on Bath County is a wash.
Well, we can tell you didn't come from New Hanover County schools.
And so what's our trivia question for this week?
All right. So the trivia question for this week is going to be, I know the last podcast we talked about the Trump inauguration. And so the next question is going to be the lectern that was used at the congressional luncheon during the inauguration. Where did they borrow that, or who did they borrow that beautiful golden eagle from? And that's our trivia question. Who did they borrow the lectern during the congressional luncheon during the inauguration from?
And you can leave your answers to these. You can leave them on their website. You can leave them on our Facebook page. You can leave them on our Rumble account or our YouTube account. We're all over the place. So let us know.
I'm tired. Lord, we're just going everywhere.
We're just going everywhere. So
bags. We're on vacation to everywhere.
And if you just watched the the Nikki and Reuel podcast show, please make sure that you check out our parent publication. That's the Wilmington Conservative, as we try to bring a very reasonable conservative voice here to coastal Carolina, and we try to have a good time doing that. So please check us out at thewilmingtonconservative.com. You can learn more about Grandma Nikki and.
Like.
And please like and subscribe on all of your favorite podcast networks. Nikki Bascom, it's always great to talk to you.
It is great to talk to you, Reuel. I hope you stay warm out there.
Yes, ma'am. Well, for the Nikki and Reuel podcast experience, I'm Reuel Sample.
And I'm Nikki Bascom.
She's got it this week, and thanks for joining us.